Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tracy Show. We are a little bit early this week, and I'll explain why here in just a second. Remember to hit that subscribe button. I'm at 404. I think either it's 404 or 405. Well, anyway, I'm quite a bit away from 500 subscribers. We keep headed for trying to get 1,000, but that doesn't seem to be happening as fast as I want. But anyway, hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, obliterate it, destroy it, hit it, help me to at least get to 500. You can support me on Patreon. Patreon support starts at $2 per month. And that helps me to buy lighting because I really need that. I only got one light tonight because again, I'll explain why this show is a little bit early today. So definitely support me on Patreon. It's $2 a month, $2 a month. That's 50 cents a week. If there's 4 weeks, it's 25 cents. If there's 5 weeks, my math is not mathing, but you get the point. Support my GoFundMe campaign. We know what that GoFundMe campaign is for. And here is something new. I am bringing back the after party. We're going to try to start it up in May. That will be in conjunction with my upcoming announcement in May. This show will move to 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so after that, once a month, we will have an after party. So that'll be around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to be a part of that, we'll discuss fun stuff, whatever it is you want to discuss. Sometimes I'll have topics, other times I won't. So just sign up there. All I need is your email and your name, and I'll email you the Zoom link. Be sure to sign up for that. And finally, I get to tell you all why I'm having this show at 6:30, and I'm glad that Gary was able to help me with that. I had to pick up a follow spotlight. So I'm starting a drama camp for children in the summer, and I bought a follow spotlight, and I had to go pick it up. And the only time they can do it is at 8 o'clock today. So I'm like, oh, that's not gonna work. So I was like, Gary, can you please move this to 6:30? And he was like, oh, sure. I was like, thank you. So I appreciate that. I am now gonna let my guests enter. Oh, and put in the comment section. I still have this Lavelle pen, and I'm wondering, I can't hear myself. I mean, I can hear myself talk, but I don't know if everybody else can hear me. I know Gary can hear me, but I don't know if people watching can hear me. So if you can hear me, just put yes, and we'll take it from there and let my guest introduce himself.
My name is Gary Swing. I'm a write-in candidate for the Arizona Green Party primary election for the 6th Congressional District. I've been a perennial candidate over the years. I was a Green Party candidate 4 times in Colorado between 1996 and 2014, and 3 times in Arizona. In 2012, for the Arizona presidential primary for the Green Party, and then again in 2016 and 2018 for U.S. Senate and for U.S. Representative. I've been involved with the Green Party intermittently with Green Party organizations preceding the organization of parties since 1985. I was in high school when I joined the Green Committees of Correspondence, which was a national organization predating the formulation of the Green Party as a political party in the United States. People organizing around the country talking about forming a Green Party. I first became interested in the Green Party when I was 17 years old because I read that Green parties in Europe were promoting the idea of national defense by organized nonviolent resistance and promoting nonviolence as an alternative in conflict situations. I was interested in that, and I wrote a paper about that for a summer program, governor's school for politics for public issues in New Jersey back in 1984. So I read about the European Green parties back then and got involved with the Greens in the United States. I read a book called Green Politics that came out around that time that got me interested in what the Greens were doing in Europe. I've been an anti-war activist, or I've been anti-war most of my life. I've been less of an activist now than I was when I was younger. But as a teenager, I went to protest marches against U.S. military intervention in Latin America, demonstrations opposing U.S. support for dictatorships in Central America. I went to demonstrations calling for the abolition of apartheid in South Africa. I went to demonstrations for the nuclear freeze movement, and I got involved in the nuclear abolition movement, calling for the universal abolition of nuclear weapons, which since then has been approved by the United Nations, except by the countries that actually have nuclear weapons. The countries that have nuclear weapons don't sign on to the agreement to abolish them. I walked from New York City to Washington, D.C. twice in the late 1980s for a march of college students calling for the abolition of nuclear weapons. I went to college partly in Washington, D.C. at American University, and then partly at the University of Colorado in Boulder. I have a degree in political science as an undergraduate and a degree in public administration, a master's degree. I was involved in the first campaign that the Greens had in Colorado as a political party. Back in 1994, I helped petition Phil Hufford onto the ballot for governor and Krista Paradise, lieutenant governor. 1994 was the year that the Green Party first got on the ballot in Colorado and established the right to voter registration. I also lobbied on behalf of the Green Party of Colorado and a coalition of 8 alternative minor parties that were seeking ballot access reform. I found sponsors for 2 bills in the Colorado State Legislature, one of which decreased petition signature requirements for unaffiliated candidates, and then a subsequent bill set up a process for political parties to be recognized if they get at least 1,000 registered voters in the state. And then it could nominate candidates for all county, state, and federal partisan offices in Colorado by party assembly. That passed in, I think it was 1987. And then in 1988, the Green Party qualified as a recognized political party, and by virtue of getting at least 1,000 registered voters in the state. And it's remained a recognized party in the state ever since then. I first ran as a Green candidate for state representative in 1996 in Northeast Denver. It turned out to be a 3-way race. I got 8.5% of the vote against a Democrat and a Republican for state legislature. At the time, that was the highest percentage of the vote cast for any candidate running as an independent or minor party candidate in the state against both a Democrat and a Republican for any office in the state. Then in 2010, 12, and 14, I was a Green candidate for Congress in Colorado. In 2012, the alternative newspaper, Tucson Weekly, was encouraging ordinary people to participate in what they called a political reality competition. They called it Project White House. And they were encouraging people to file as candidates for the presidential primary in Arizona that year. And only the Greens and the Republicans had a primary. The Democrats decided not to have one. And so half of the candidates who were on the ballot in that presidential primary were participating in this political reality competition that was being run by a local newspaper. So these weren't generally serious candidates, but they had a series of tests that were put to them by the Tucson Weekly. And it was an interesting experience to try to incorporate humor into a political campaign, which for me was kind of an experiment at the time. And I tried to be clear in doing that I was participating in a political reality competition. I was not a recognized Green Party candidate for president. I was only on the primary in Arizona. And at the same time, I was an actual Green Party candidate for U.S. representative in Denver. So I was on the ballot in 2 states as a Green in 2012. And then in 2016, I filed as a Green candidate for U.S. Senate in Arizona, 2018 for U.S. Representative. And I've also been on the ballot in Colorado 3 times as a Unity Party candidate there. My involvement in the Green Party grew out of my interest in being a lifelong pacifist. I got to understand the Green Party in Europe as a coalition of environmental activists and anti-war activists. And I saw that as an essential coalition for peace and justice. That grew into my involvement in local organizations, first campus organizations in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, and then in the development of the Green Party in Colorado as a functioning political organization that was running candidates for some office every 2 years. In Arizona, there are multiple paths for candidates to get on the ballot. So the Arizona Green Party is a recognized political party in the state. And there are 2 ways to become recognized as a political party in Arizona. One is to do a party petition. And in practice, that's the path that the Green Party has always used in Arizona. You need to get, I think it's 1.5% of the vote for last cast for governor for all candidates in the number of petition signatures to qualify a political party. So the last time the Arizona Greens petitioned was for the 2024 and 2026 elections. You get 2 elections for 1 petition. And they gathered 63,000 petition signatures and turned them in to qualify as a party. And then to re-qualify, you need either 2/3 of 1% of all voter registrations in the state, or 5% of the vote for governor. And the Arizona Green Party has not qualified as a continuing political party under those criteria. It's had to petition each time that it gets on the ballot here as a recognized party and by party petition.
Good. Thank you for that overview. You answered some of my questions. So obviously, I know Gary through the Unity Party when he was in Colorado, but now he's moved to Arizona, so he's now with the Green Party. I'm assuming there's no Unity Party in Arizona.
There is not any Unity Party in Arizona. The Unity Party only has ballot access as a recognized political party in Colorado.
That's what I thought.
Right.
That is what I thought. So let's talk about why it is you decided, you've ran bunches of times. Why run this time? What specific issues in Arizona are there that you think need to be addressed that cause you to say, okay, I'm in?
Well, I have personal reasons for running and also political reasons. So Arizona is on the front lines for immigration policy. We have an administration that has been extremely anti-immigrant, cracking down on both legal immigrants and people who are undocumented immigrants in the United States. ICE has been involved in very broad-based and extreme violations of human rights. I'm an advocate for open borders and freedom of travel, freedom of migration. I believe that the right to travel and to migrate and to seek employment and residency in other countries is a fundamental human right. I call for the abolition of ICE, the shutdown of immigrant detention centers, recognition of due process for people seeking immigration. I support the right to seek asylum, political amnesty for people who are already living in the United States. I support an international right to seek employment in other countries. I'm also concerned about U.S. military intervention around the world. Since the end of World War II, the United States has military intervention has been responsible for the deaths of an estimated 20 million or more people in 37 different countries due to the effects of illegal U.S. military intervention and support for dictatorships, death squads, and authoritarian regimes around the country. That's between World War II and 9/11. Since 9/11, U.S. foreign military intervention under the so-called War on Terror has been responsible for the deaths of another 5 million or more people around the world. This policy of U.S. military intervention has mostly been fairly continuous, regardless of whether Democrats or Republicans are in office. I think we have a bit of a different situation now with Trump acting like a dictator and thinking he can do anything he wants and no one's going to stop him. The Republicans control both houses of Congress. They control most state legislatures, the White House, the Supreme Court. And there just aren't the votes to stop him from doing whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. He's basically gotten a free pass to do whatever he wants. I'm also concerned about environmental sustainability. I support transition to an environmentally sustainable economy. And I think that's an important issue for the Green Party and for the world as a whole. I've talked with you before about proportional representation. I've been an advocate for alternative voting systems for many years. I first became involved in the idea of proportional representation when I got involved in helping to organize the Green Party of Colorado. Looking at Greens around the world, the Greens have run candidates in more than 90 countries around the world. The Green Party has elected legislators at the national level in at least 30 countries, mostly due to the use of proportional representation in voting systems under the party list model. Under party list proportional representation, each party wins seats in proportion to the party's share of the votes. You cast a vote for your favorite party. It may be an open vote or a closed vote for candidates within the party's list. But your vote counts towards the party to allot shares of seats for each party. And that's why you see the Green Party throughout Europe as being a part of coalition governments, why the Greens have significant representation in Australia and New Zealand, throughout Latin America, and in other parts of the world as well. It's mostly because they have a different voting system than we do. Now, the Greens in the United States have been running candidates at various levels for more than 40 years now, but they've never elected anyone to Congress. In fact, no candidate representing an alternative political party has been elected to any seat in Congress since 1970, when William F. Buckley's brother was elected to a U.S. Senate seat in New York State as a Conservative Party candidate. And not only, of course, did he have name recognition from his family, but also they have a system there that's called fusion voting, where more than one party can nominate the same candidate. So it was pretty typical in New York State for both the Republicans and the Conservative Party to nominate the same candidate on separate ballot lines. And the same thing would happen with the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party. Now you have the Working Families Party in New York State. New York has passed some extreme ballot access restrictions that make it much harder now for alternative parties to get qualified in the state. So New York now has some of the most restrictive ballot access laws in the country. But proportional representation, to me, is an essential tool for providing fair representation for everyone. Under our system, you have to have a majority of the vote or a plurality of vote in a single member district in order to win representation in public office. In most cases, some city councils are different. But we have a system based on geographic districts that are usually dominated by a single political party. So in most cases, we really have a one-party system, not even a two-party system. Now, the seat that I filed for in Arizona, CD6 is what's called a swing district. That just happens to be my last name too. But it's one of the most competitive districts in the country between the Democrats and the Republicans. So the incumbent last time, Juan Ciscomani, is a Republican. He won the last election with 50.0% of the vote. The Democratic candidate got 47.5%. And the Green Party candidate in three-way race got 2.5% of the vote. It's a district that the Democrats consider to be an absolutely must-win for them in 2026 if they want to flip the U.S. House of Representatives from majority Republican to majority Democrat. And they have a candidate who has no campaign issues on her website at all. She has millions of dollars behind her campaign. She has endorsements from the leadership of the Democratic Party, from top office holders, other members of Congress. Most of her campaign funding is coming from out of district and out of state. In the last election, $37 million were spent for or against the two major party nominees for that district. And most of that money, again, came from out of the state. So you have money from all over the country coming in to influence one of a very small number of seats that's competitive even between two parties. And right now, there are a lot of candidates for this office. There's one challenger to the Republican incumbent who may or may not get on the primary ballot in his own party. There are currently 9 Democrats running. There were 11. And one candidate, Joanna Mendoza, has the party's backing. She has millions of dollars. The other candidates contesting that office for the Democratic nomination are essentially shut out of the process. They've been drowned out by money from outside interests. Some of these candidates may or may not get onto a primary ballot. Arizona has 5 recognized political parties right now. In addition to the Greens, the Democrats, and the Republicans, the Libertarian Party is also a recognized political party in the state. And the Arizona Independent Party, which was formerly the No Labels Party, is a recognized political party in the state. They are now affiliated with the Forward Party. And interestingly, 3 former Democratic candidates have now switched to run in the Arizona Independence Party primary. So we may see a third party primary in this election.
Okay, I'm a tad confused because you're running as a write-in candidate, correct?
I am running, right. So, and there are 2 different ways to get on the ballot in Arizona as a member of a political party. One way is to petition onto a primary ballot. And you can do that partly by paper petitions and partly online. The problem with running as a petition candidate in Arizona is the paper petitions can be challenged. So people will go through line by line and try to challenge signatures even after they've been submitted and disqualify candidates who have already petitioned onto the ballot from qualifying for the ballot. The Democrats and Republicans play a lot of games with the election system in Arizona. And it's been pretty standard for Green Party candidates who petition onto the primary ballot to be challenged and be kicked off of the primary ballot. We do have petition candidates running for the Green Party for Corporation Commissioner, which is a statewide office, and for governor. I filed as a write-in candidate. Now, under a lawsuit that was carried out by the Socialist Workers' Party decades ago, they had qualified as a political party in Arizona a long time ago, but they weren't able to get their candidates on the ballot, even though they were a recognized party. They kept getting disqualified. So this court ruling allows candidates of what's called a new political party to get on the general election ballot by winning the plurality of votes, the most votes cast in a primary election for that party, even if it's only one write-in vote. So if only one candidate files as a write-in vote, you can win the primary for a new political party with just one vote. Or if multiple candidates file as a write-in candidate, then you just need to get more votes than any other candidate who is registered. Only votes cast for registered candidates are counted. So let's say Mickey Mouse gets 50 votes and a registered candidate gets 1 vote. Mickey Mouse isn't a real person and isn't registered. So only the registered candidate is eligible. Now in Arizona...
okay, that's what was confusing me, because you said the Green Party has ballot access. So I'm thinking, oh, well, if you got ballot access, that's just automatic. You're on the ballot. But
not automatic, no. Because people play games with the process. Another thing
you don't believe it. You lying. You're sitting there, you're just telling lies. You just not the Democrats. They would never do that.
2024 in the US Senate race, there was a Democrat who petitioned on the Green Party primary ballot for US Senate, and a Republican who petitioned onto the Green Party primary ballot for US Senate. And the Green Party endorsed candidate was a write-in candidate who managed to beat both of the candidates who were on the ballot. And back in 2018, the candidate who petitioned on the Green Party primary for US Senate was challenged and disqualified and wasn't able to get on the ballot because some of their petition signatures were thrown out and they didn't have a cure period to fix the issue. So there's a history of the Democrats and Republicans interfering in the Green Party primary in Arizona for their own purposes to keep candidates off the ballot. Presumably, in the case in 2024, the Democrat would have withdrawn if they won the nomination. The Republican would have stayed on to try to draw votes away from the Democrat. So there's a lot of game playing. But there's nothing to challenge for a write-in candidate.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. It would make sense. Here comes my next question. So you said the primary. When is the Arizona primary?
The Arizona primary will be in July. I think it's July 24th. The deadline for petitioning is just a few days away. So March 23rd is the petitioning deadline for primary candidates. The write-in deadline.
That portion. You're skipping the petition.
I'm skipping that portion. That's right.
Okay. So that's what, okay. So people can write your name in.
Right.
I want to repeat this so I can make sure my brain has got it. So people can write your name in, and among the independent candidates, if you get more votes than all the rest of them, you're on the ballot.
Well, each of the alternative parties that's recognized has their own primary. So at this point, I am the only candidate for the Green Party primary for Arizona's 6th congressional district.
So nobody else in the Green Party is running for your seat?
Nobody else in the Green Party is running for the seat at this time. There's still time for other people to file. And in fact, people could file for dozens of offices throughout the state. This is an easy process.
But you're doing it. I think this is where I'm still not getting it. So you're doing it as a write-in. The other ones are doing it as petitions?
There are candidates for governor and for corporation commissioner who are petitioning.
No, I mean for your office.
Not for my office. Oh, I think for the other political parties, they're doing petition drives. Now, the Libertarian Party actually falls under a different set of rules, so it gets more complicated. The Libertarian Party is what's called a continuing political party. So they need a certain threshold of votes in the primary to qualify for the general election, because they have enough voter registration to be recognized as an ongoing political party. And they don't have the option of qualifying just by write-in, because they need more votes in the primary. Now, the American or the Arizona Independent Party is in an interesting situation because they have qualified under both sets of rules for both as a continuing political party by virtue of voter registration, and they're also a new party because they just petitioned onto the ballot for the 2024 and 2026 election cycles. It appears that the Secretary of State's office is letting them operate under the rules for a new political party by virtue of their petition. And the threshold there is lower. So they could run candidates by write-in and qualify for the general election. But they actually have enough voter registration to meet the requirement to be a continuing political party. So they have already qualified for the 2028 election in Arizona, unlike the Green Party, which would have to petition again or get 5% of the vote for governor. So Arizona has some really convoluted ballot access laws.
I thought Indiana was dumb, but I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Because all I know for us is pretty simple. There's two ways to get on the ballot. Number one, 2% of the Secretary of State vote. So whoever voted in the last Secretary of State, you get 2%, you're on the ballot. Or 2% of the presidential candidacy. Those are the two ways. That's it. Oh my goodness. But again, it's pettiness. So I want you to talk about your, and I always hate to ask about challenges, but obviously running a write-in candidate as a write-in candidate is not easy. I can't imagine it's easy. I know you talked about not having like a strong social media presence. What are some of the challenges you face, and what are you doing to overcome those challenges?
The ballot access challenge for me right now is not really an issue. It may become an issue if someone challenges me for the nomination, which is always possible. There's still 2 months for someone else to get into the process. Now, we won't actually know until July, the end of July, who will be on the general election ballot. And it does look like there may be 5 candidates on the ballot this election cycle. There's also a genuine independent or no party preference candidate running. And they need so many petition signatures that I think they're very unlikely to get on the ballot. So theoretically, there could be a 6-way race. I seriously doubt that will happen. There are kind of parallel processes in effect in Arizona. So we have a phenomenon that the Arizona Green Party has referred to as sham candidates. Now, sham candidates, as I understand it, the idea is that they are candidates who, for whatever reason, are running on the party's line but have not gone through the party's endorsement process. So they may or may not be Greens, but they're not going through the party's endorsement process. Now, the Green Party cannot actually control who uses the Green Party's ballot line in Arizona. Whoever wins the primary election gets on the general election ballot as the party's nominee, whether they have the party's support or not. So I am going through the endorsement process that the Green Party holds. And that's open to anyone who is both a registered Green Party member and a dues-paying member of the Green Party of Arizona. So the Arizona Green Party enables people to participate in this process where you go to a meeting or Zoom in and you give a presentation about who you are, what you stand for, and party members can vote to endorse, not endorse, and remain neutral, or to actively oppose a candidate. So this meeting will probably be set up after all the candidates are known. So after the filing deadline for write-in candidates, I would expect that the Arizona Green Party will have an endorsement meeting. And then you can go and say your piece, what you stand for, and ask for their endorsement. But they can't block anyone from running. They can say, this person represents us, this person doesn't, this person we're not taking a position on. So there will be a contested nomination for governor, as there often are for the highest offices. Right now, there are 2 candidates who are filed for the Green Party of Arizona nomination for governor. Carlos Melendez, who is an active party member in good standing, and there's another candidate, Riza, I can't think of her last name right now, but she is a stealth MAGA Republican who has filed a statement of interest to run for the Green Party nomination for governor.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What you just said doesn't. She's a MAGA. Oh, because you don't restrict. Okay.
Right.
I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Right.
I understand.
The Green Party can't block anyone from running. There's
But
a
you
process.
don't have to give that person their endorsement. You can oppose that
That's right.
person.
Yes.
Okay.
And that person could ask to participate in the endorsement process. I wouldn't expect that to happen. But there is a process.
I wonder, I think I would know the reason why they're doing it that way. I think I know, but I'm going to have you tell me.
Well, the Republicans and the Democrats play games, and Republicans have in the past used the Green Party ballot line to try to put someone on the Green Party ballot they think can take votes away from the Democrats and play a spoiler role. We did have a Republican operative in the Arizona Green Party, I think it was back in 2010, who recruited a bunch of homeless people to file paperwork as Green Party write-in candidates for a primary election. And then the Arizona Green Party called them, they use this term, sham candidates, because they weren't running real campaigns. They were recruited by a Republican operative to run on the Green Party ballot line. The Arizona Green Party sued in both state and federal court, trying to remove these candidates from the ballot, lost in both cases. The courts ruled that they had no standing to determine who is or is not a legitimate candidate. They went through a legal process and got on the ballot that way. And so in 2010, the majority of candidates on the Green Party general election ballot in Arizona were candidates who were not endorsed by the party. They're candidates recruited by a Republican. Now, Republicans control both houses of the state legislature, and they've set some pretty draconian ballot access laws that have kept most libertarian candidates off the ballot. Libertarians are the 3rd largest party in the state, but they need to meet a certain threshold of votes in the primary election as a continuing party in order to get on the general election ballot. Now, the ballot access laws that the Republican legislators created makes it relatively easier for candidates of a technically new political party to get on the general election ballot than candidates of a continuing party. And since the Libertarians have more registered voters in the state, they have kind of succeeded into failure because they have enough registered voters to qualify as a political party, but they don't get enough votes in the primary to qualify their candidates for the general election ballot, which has given the Greens an opportunity to get into 3-way races that they might not otherwise have.
So if I'm understanding this right, and please again correct, because I'm still trying to get this through my head. Right now, you do not have the endorsement of the Green Party you're seeking.
That is correct. Right now, I'm not an endorsed candidate. That process has not happened yet.
Okay. The primary is in July, but the deadline to run as a write-in candidate is coming up. So you make that deadline, obviously, they write you in. Is it then you start campaigning, or are you campaigning in terms of outreach now?
I have a campaign Facebook page. I don't have an active campaign website right now. In the past, I've used some free campaign website hosts, and I've had some technical issues with the host that I used previously, which was Wix.com. When I ran as a Green Party candidate previously, I used a web host called newmenu.org that provided campaign websites for free for Green Party candidates, but that website no longer is available. So I am on several social media sites. I have a public figure page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/runfromcongress. That's my personal public figure page that I'm using as a campaign site right now. And I have an X account. I don't really like X as a forum, but I post political things there. I have a Blue Sky account as well, but it doesn't seem to have a lot of traffic on there. My personal Facebook page is a combination of political things, personal things, hiking photographs. It's kind of an all-purpose site for me. I do have a campaign flyer that I created for the Tucson has an annual peace fair that's been going on for more than 40 years. I created a flyer to distribute at a Green Party booth there. I think it's fair to say at this point that the Green Party of Arizona recognizes me as a member in good standing. They also recognize Michael Cease, who's an organizer for the Pima County Green Party, as their candidate for Corporation Commissioner, again, statewide office. Carlos Melendez is a member in good standing, running for governor as a Green Party candidate. The last I checked, there were 11 people who had filed some kind of paperwork to run as a Green candidate for various offices in the state. I don't really know many of the other candidates. I only know one of them personally who's not actively involved in the party. But there will be a process between the filing deadline and the primary for people to seek the party's official endorsement, which is, it's a kind of a beauty contest and recognition from the party.
Okay, so I think I might have phrased that question wrong. So I'm asking, are you engaging with potential voters now? Do you have a team assembled? Do you have like volunteers? What is it that you're doing now to prepare for that?
Don't really have an active campaign going this time. I have had a few interviews. People have asked me to come on podcasts. I have written some letters to the editor. I wrote a letter about U.S. foreign military intervention being illegal under the U.S. Constitution, under the Charter of the United Nations, and under the Kellogg-Briand Pact. I wrote a letter to the editor in support of the No Kings protests. And also, I've written some articles in different places. I've posted things on Green Party forums for the state of Arizona and on social media sites. I'm actively involved in the local Green Party organization. I've been going to some meetings of the Pima County Green Party, which is here in Tucson. And I also participate in the Arizona Green Party's online meetings when I don't forget that they're happening. I need to remember when the time comes that they're going on. I have recently become the newest state board member of the Arizona Green Party. So I'm now an alternate delegate to the Green Party of the United States for the Green Party of Arizona. I'm not really familiar.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not really familiar yet with the process of the GPUS delegates. So I need some, I need to become more familiar with the social media programs that are being used.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking this question, because oftentimes people always will say a third party candidates or alternative candidates. Where are they at? I never see them. They're running and it's like they come from nowhere. So I believe one of the steps is talking to voters now, because the ultimate goal would be to get elected in November. I'm just gonna assume that's your goal. That's the goal, is to represent the congressional district number 6. It's imperative, I'll use that word, imperative, to get that start. And time is going fast because our primary is May the 5th. And we were just talking about, it seems like yesterday we were talking about our primary and it's coming up. I'm like, that time just goes so quickly. I just wonder, and you can say, Tracy, shut up. You don't live in Arizona, you don't know. But I wonder, is it that that is there hesitation on your part to do that, or are you just waiting for that July date to come and then start?
A bit of both, perhaps. I recognize the reality that the winner is going to be a Democrat or a Republican. This is, as I said, it's a swing district, and it's going to be one of the most tightly contested congressional races in the country between the Democrats and the Republicans. I wouldn't be surprised if $40 million or more is spent on this campaign. The last election, the Green Party candidate got 2.5% in a three-way race. The last candidate the Green Party ran for Congress in a special election here got less than 1% of the vote in a three-way race. I think we have a situation in the United States now where the electorate is so polarized between the Democrats and the Republicans. I think it's going to be a very hard lift to get much traction at this level. By filing as a candidate for this office, I was the first alternative party candidate to file for this office. And at first it looked like a three-way race. And in a three-way race, I could be perceived as a potential spoiler, someone who could take enough votes away from the Democrat to prevent the Democrat from winning in a close race. In a five-way race, that effect is really muted. In a six-way race, the more candidates are on the general election ballot, I think the less of a voter turnout each of those alternative party candidates is likely to get. And people feel a lot of pressure to vote either Democrat or Republican. It's so polarized right now. Everything is about Trump. Trump is trying to destroy anything that's good about this country. He's acting like a dictator. And you have a Democrat who is essentially buying the primary right now. There are 9 Democrats running in the primary. I don't know if all of them will qualify for the ballot, but one of them has millions of dollars backing her. No campaign issues on her platform. And we're in a situation where the U.S. is attacking several different countries militarily simultaneously, one foreign conflict after another. The Democrat is a 20-year military veteran campaigning in her Marine Corps uniform. You go on her campaign website, and what you see is a plea for money and a photograph of her dressed in a Marine Corps uniform holding a baby in a military uniform, and no issues. It's just this military imagery. So there are a lot of Democrats who are unhappy that the Democratic Party establishment is pushing this one particular candidate, backing her with national campaign funding, and there's no issues. You don't know what this person stands for.
And that's what I want to get to. So that's why I think I hear what you're saying, but I'm like, if if we keep letting them get away with this, right? We keep saying, oh, well, they're going to do this or that. We have to say, hey, you got this choice. Okay, they're going to screw you over, but we got this choice. Look at us. We got this choice. But that's up to you to decide your campaign. You run it the way you want to. But I do want to ask you what you actually talked about it in your introduction, how you're talking about the expansion of what I call the military industrial complex. Um, used to be the Secretary of Defense, is now called the Secretary of War, and how that's expanded and how that's coming into our lives. Um, I was reading somewhere, and I could be wrong about this, that the action in just Iran cost somewhere around $285 million per day. I want to be wrong about that, but I think I'm right there where it should be. How did we get to the point where we're comfortable with that? Like nobody is saying, hey, that, maybe if we, put those resources in America,
Mhm.
we can help people who, like me, are struggling with their mortgage or struggling with their medications or like
Right.
how did we get to this point?
U.S. military now has $1 trillion military budget, bigger than the next 10 countries combined. Trump wants to increase that to $1.5 trillion. I think I read recently that the military portion of the federal budget is now up to 2/3 or 3/4 of the entire federal budget is for police, prisons, and the military. Health and human services, education, the environment, everything else falls to the wayside in favor of a global military imperialism and a police state under Homeland Security, under ICE, FBI, prison industrial complex. It's the federal budget is being used to hurt people, not to help people.
Right.
And we need to fundamentally change that priority. I've called for cutting the military budget by 90%, shutting down all foreign military bases. The U.S. has something like 800 military bases around the world, and there has never been as extensive a foreign military presence for any country in history as there is right now for the United States. And the U.S. has attacked at least 9 different countries on the Trump administration, maybe more than that by now, in the past week or so. It's just it's never-ending war, and it's been this way under every post-World War II administration. But it's getting to the point where there isn't even the pretense of having any accountability. The president gets a blank check for whatever he wants. The Constitution gave the right to declare war to Congress, not to the president. The Kellogg-Briand Pact that was signed by the United States and most other countries in the world in 1928 prohibited war except in the case of defense against a foreign attack. The United Nations Charter prohibits war except as an act of defense that is authorized by the United Nations Security Council. Every act of foreign military intervention committed by the United States over the last 80 years has violated the U.S. Constitution, has violated the Kellogg-Briand Pact that was intended to outlaw war, and except for the Korean War, has also violated the United Nations Charter. That was the only war that was declared by the United Nations Charter, United Nations Security Council the U.S. participated in. And even that war was illegal under the U.S. Constitution and the Kellogg-Briand Pact. So every single act of foreign military intervention over the last 80 years has been strictly illegal. And there's no accountability. We have an imperial presidency in the United States where the office of president has been allowed to usurp far too much power. I talk a lot about alternative voting methods, alternative systems of government. I'm opposed to the office of president itself. Many countries have a parliamentary system in which the Congress, the national legislature, chooses the chief executive, the chief administrator. And that chief administrator can be removed at any time on a simple vote of no confidence by the members of parliament. It's not as involved as the impeachment and conviction process that we have in the United States. No president has ever been convicted by the Senate, and that requires a 2/3 majority vote of a body that is illegitimate to begin with. The U.S. Senate does not give equal representation to people. It's representation based on states. And that whole system is rooted in a constitution that was created by slaveholders who sought to preserve a system of slavery. The United States has the oldest written constitution that's been continuously active in the world today. And most of the people who ratified that constitution, who signed the constitution, were slaveholders. Most of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence were slaveholders. All of the people who participated in drafting the Declaration of Independence and participated in drafting the Constitution were white men, meeting in secret, without public accountability. And the process they set up for amending the Constitution is so difficult, it's almost impossible to have any meaningful change added to it. It's a very cumbersome process. It's one of the most difficult processes in the world for amending a Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, primary architect of the Declaration of Independence, said that a Constitution could not bind future generations. He argued that a Constitution should expire after a single generation unless a new convention is held to draft a new Constitution. You can't hold people accountable for what past generations created. He said that every 19 years, you should have a new system of government. And in fact, looking at constitutions around the world, 19 years has been the average length of time that a national constitution has existed for constitutions created since the US Constitution was written. And yet the United States is stuck with this archaic system of government. It created an electoral college that gave permanent overrepresentation to small, less populated rural conservative states, which originally were predominantly slave states. You had the 3/5 rule for the US House of Representatives, which recognized slaves as 3/5 of a person. And instead of giving that representation to the slaves, they add that representation to the representation of slaveholders in those states. So slaveholders were overrepresented from the beginning in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, and in the Electoral College. And that continues today with conservatives having a built-in bias. So the right wing has an automatic bias in the very structure of the government. Since then, we've extended voting rights, which originally only went to about 6% of the population. When the Constitution was first passed, only white male property owners over the age of 25 could vote. 94% of the population at the time did not have the right to vote. They did not have the right to representation. Now women can vote. Now people are able to vote regardless of race. And at the same time, we have a Republican Party that is pushing Make America Great Again. They want to bring us back to an era when we roll back civil rights. They want to take away voting rights under the Save America Act, make everyone re-register to vote under IDs that are expensive, U.S. passport, or you have to have a certified real ID plus a birth certificate, which many people don't have, that they have to pay for to have sent to them. Just getting a driver's license in Arizona, it took me 6 weeks to provide all the documentation, and they sent it to the wrong address.
Yep.
Just getting a driver's license under the existing laws was so hard.
Yep. So second to last question, you're not taking donations at this time, are you?
That is correct. I initially planned to spend $0 on the campaign. And part of that is that I'm challenging the role of money in politics. I haven't spent money on a campaign at all since 2014. And yet I've been on the ballot several times since then.
Because I'm so used to saying donate, donate, donate. And I really hate to feel like I'm pressed. But because we're like technically at an hour. I'm going to put up your Facebook page again, but tell people how they, besides this website that I got there, how else can they connect with you?
I'd like to push the Arizona Green Party website. Now, the Arizona Green Party has a website at azgp.org. I'd also like to encourage other people to run as candidates. We have the ability to nominate dozens of candidates for statewide office, for 9 congressional seats, for the state legislature. And the write-in process as a Green for the primary process could enable us to have dozens of candidates on the ballot. I think the record was 19 candidates for the Arizona Green Party in 2016 on the general election ballot. We could beat that if we recruit candidates to run for various offices up and down the ballot in the primary election. Now, I don't ask people to donate to my campaign, but the Arizona Green Party has operating expenses. They have meetings, they have to do petition drives, especially every 4 years to get on the ballot. That is a major operating expense. So don't give to me as a candidate, give to the Arizona Green Party through azgp.org. Get involved, register green, get involved on Arizona Green Party social media, on X, on Facebook, and come out to the meetings. We have local chapters in Pima County, which is Tucson, and also Maricopa County, which is the Phoenix area. And we have state meetings. Get involved, find out who the candidates who are running. When we have an endorsement meeting, that information will be up on the campaign, on the state party website. They should have links to all the candidates. I'm on Facebook myself. And again, that's facebook.com/runfromcongress. Right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Oh, no, thank you. And I'm so appreciative. Everybody, like I said, join me Saturday. You know, my Saturday show, we pick an insane topic. And I'm going to be talking about why cooking shows, just competition shows, just work my last nerve, but I keep watching them for some reason. I don't know why. Remember to like this podcast, share. We are at 407 subscribers, so 93 away from 500. Remember that in May, this show moves to 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember to sign up for the after party. Please sign up for that. That'll be starting in May, once a month. We'll come in, we'll talk about ballot access, campaign finance reform, how do we get our economy working for everybody, all those type of things. So remember to sign up for the after party. Thank you, Gary, for coming in on such short notice, changing your time. You guys, I got to get to my appointment. I will see you all this Saturday. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tracy. And thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you, and have a good one.